Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So, end of the month, let's have a quick look at what's going on in terms of the on-chain activity for blockchain games during November. So, as ever, I'm taking the data from DappRadar. So, just let's start with DappRadar, I guess, before we look at the graph. So, we can see here, I've selected this to show all chains and it's showing the games. So, we have number one here, we have Alien Worlds doing almost 300,000 daily active unique wallets. As ever, we're just measuring on-chain activity, so we're measuring the number of wallets interacting with the smart contracts in this game over the last 24 hours. This is what it's showing here. We can't say these are unique users because obviously people might have multiple wallets. There's obviously bots going on as well, even though games like Alien Worlds and Splinterlands, try and have as few bots as possible. But this is just raw data, and we're always a little bit careful with raw data. So anyway, we can still see, this hasn't changed. Alien Worlds and Splinterlands have not been 1 and 2 all year. Farmers World's been there and thereabouts. We have Benji Bananas, a big increase there. Basically, Benji Bananas at the moment is basically people are playing a simple Web 2 game, and if they have this NFT, the Benji coin, they can earn the in-game token called Primate. That's quite connected with the sort of ape coin sort of scenario. It's an Animoca Brands game, and so that's had a big peak recently because you have this earning mechanic. So Planet X, Planet 9 even, so that's a new one on Polygon. That's a sort of I haven't played that one actually yet. I've had a look at it. They have a sort of a mining event going on. I'm not entirely sure. I think this is a sort of a bit of a well, I'll wait to see. So it's had a really big increase in the last couple of weeks, and obviously we see that a lot with blockchain games. There's sort of quite a lot of volatility in terms of on-chain activity. So they just launched their token as well. So that's sort of what's going. I think a little bit of what's going on there. So we'll wait and see, and then a whole bunch of other ones. So a whole bunch of stuff on sort of BNB and some of these games, which I think they are what they are. I wouldn't really necessarily call them sort of games necessarily. As with blockchain stuff, there's a lot of sort of mining and things like that. So, and I'm not a massive fan of what goes on the BNB chain, although clearly that's fine. That's just my personal opinion. So this is what's going on in terms of the raw data. Now let's have a look at the let's graph that out. Okay, so all I've done in this graph is I've just taken that raw data. You can download it from DappRadar, and I've just sort of graphed it over the year. So this is the full year 2022. We know it's been an interesting year for crypto, particularly after sort of May. We know all that sort of stuff. So I've just looked here at I've just taken 5 games here. So these are sort of 5 games that I think are sort of they're either sort of having a lot of activity, or I think they're sort of more they've been proven to sort of sustain their audience. So if you look at all the raw data for all those games, you actually get quite a lot of you have graphs that you can't really see what's going on because there's lines going up and down all over the place. So this is a little bit like a taking what I think are the most sort of maybe symbolic's the wrong word, but the most sort of characteristic products. So we can see here, start of the year, Splinterlands was over 300,000 daily active unique wallets, went up to 400,000. So Splinterlands is a trading card game on the Hive blockchain. So we have this big drop off here, which is actually purely due to changes they've made in the game. So they changed the reward structure. So it made it basically the more skilled you were in the game and the more cards, assets you had in the game, the more you earned. And that reduced a lot of the bots. So we can see here they lost sort of 2/3 of their audience pretty much overnight. Went down to under 100,000. They've sort of picked up since there. I mean, I assume some bots have sort of sort of jigged what they were doing, so some bot farms. So this has made a much better experience, I think, for players. So we can see here, they were at a low of under 100,000, and now they're about 150,000. Volatile up and down. With Splinterlands, you have these 2-week cycles where you win, where you're sort of placed on the leaderboard. It means you win better rewards. So you tend to have this sort of 2-week spike, which is probably more driven by bots than not. But we can still see it here actually. So they're about 150,000. So sort of been pretty stable during sort of November. But the interesting thing here in blue, we have Alien Worlds, so running mainly on the Wax blockchain. There's some stuff on the BNB blockchain, some NFT sort of mission stuff there. And it's been pretty steady. I mean, volatile as all these things tend to be. Sort of declined in September, but since then we've actually seen quite a strong rise. So, under 150,000 now, and now we're up to sort of 250, over 250,000 at certain spikes. So it's always sort of a little bit dangerous to see what's going on in a game and then try and sort of do the whole sort of causation correlation sort of game on this. But we can say with Alien Worlds that they have added some stuff in the game. So they have added this new sort of DAO system, which plays into the existing planet system. So in Alien Worlds, there's I can't remember, is it 6 planets, 9 planets? Can't remember, but basically there's a planet structure, and you basically go and you choose a planet to mine on, and you can own NFT land on those planets. And now what they've done is they've basically created those planets as DAOs. So the planets have in the system have a certain amount of the token. The Trillium token is sort of goes into the planets, and that's what's mined out. And the landowners sort of can get a percentage of what people are mining on their land. And now they've broken that out, or not broken it out, they sort of created that into a formal DAO structure, so you can actually have people becoming leaders of those planetary DAOs, and people vote for them, and they can put through proposals about how they're going to use their resources. And that's a sort of a long-term plan to sort of decentralize the game and have these planetary DAOs sort of running the game. That'll be a bit of a way off, but it's an interesting first step. And clearly, if that sort of stuff is happening, that's new functionality in the game. We'd expect, or we would potentially expect. We'd be interested to see, does that increase the sort of on-chain activity? And it appears to me as if that probably has done that. So we have a big spike here, another spike here. There's another thing that's just happened recently, which is a sort of a companion game, I suppose you could call it. It's a game that's been funded by the grant system at Alien Worlds, and it's a very simple browser game, and you use some of the NFTs in the game for more. So it's like a very simple sort of combat strategy game, a little bit like rock paper scissors, a bit more complicated than that, but roughly you can think of it as that. And that's using some assets for the first time. So it's using the minions and the weapons for the first time. There will be a PvP game within Alien Worlds using those later in 2023. But at the moment, it's sort of this sort of companion sort of project from a third-party developer. So again, I'm not quite sure if DappRadar is tracking that as a smart contract, because DappRadar can only this data is showing what smart contracts DappRadar's tracking. So I don't know whether they see that as Alien Worlds or a separate game. And again, we sort of have this sort of big uptick here, which wouldn't surprise me if that was sort of from that. So anyway, I mean, part of the thing here is Alien Worlds has sort of increased from a low point here, and sort of Splinterlands has stayed the same. But you can sort of see really since the summer, there's been this sort of ongoing toing and froing between the two games. Okay, so that's the two most popular games. As you can see, they've sort of been back and forth over the year, and some of the changes of the product has changed the popularity. So let's look at the other three down here. So smaller games. We have Farmer's World on Wax, which is a sort of a farming sort of game. There is some sort of some people think there's a lot of bots on there, and there's been sort of some concern about sort of potentially how that game is sort of run. I have played it, but not recently. So we can see here, it sort of went up to a sort of peak of 150,000 and is sort of heading down again now. And actually, I don't think that's. I mean, I think that's not surprising in the terms of, if you don't update games, you sort of get people churning out. And obviously, certainly from May onwards, we've seen the token price, of all these. If these games have tokens, the token price has been down in 2022 quite a lot, probably 80-90% in most cases, but particularly since May. So there's no surprise that since May into the summer, into the autumn, into the winter, we've sort of seen a sort of compression of activity. So Farmer's World is definitely down there. Upland is in green here. So this is a mobile game, sort of like a Monopoly style game, where you play in various sort of it's not location based, but you play in locations like it started in San Francisco, New York. They've opened up various cities, and you can own property in there, and people land on it, and it is a very much Monopoly style game. So that's going through the app stores. That sort of has cryptocurrency in there, but it's sort of restricted by what you can do in app stores. It had a sort of big peak at the start of the year. It sort of went down a little bit. Sort of in the summer, came up again. Now sort of in sort of steady decline sort of situation. So that's what's happened there. And then obviously we have Axie Infinity started the year with these massive spikes. Obviously the thing with the Axie Infinity is this is just looking at on-chain activity. So at some points over 300,000 daily active unique wallets on the Ronin blockchain. Come down a lot, or actually one over 400,000 here. Big spike here. And then we've come down to under, I think we're about 10,000-ish now. Again, this is sort of on-chain activity, and we're sort of looking to see what happens with Axie. They've sort of rebuilt their game. So they have the sort of, it's actually, what do they call it now? Axie Infinity Origins is the new game, and they have sort of more esports type tournaments going on there. I'm still sort of quite bullish about Axie Infinity, but we'll wait and see. This is sort of clearly, there's been sort of spikes at various occasions for various things, but sort of steadily sort of declining now. And obviously, the year-on-year drop is pretty substantial, which is, I guess, again, no surprise given what's happened to the tokens as well. So so that's where we are. So I don't think that much is going to change in December, certainly for these three. Will it be interesting to see, I guess, particularly with Alien Worlds, what's going on there with that sort of DAO structure. And DAO structure is sort of interesting because it, if you're playing a game, there's certain things you do in the game to play the game. But a DAO structure is sort of a different sort of layer. So you could be playing the game, with Alien Worlds, you're sort of mining stuff. But then the DAO structure, is going to be a whole different sort of interactive experience. So it's clearly not a game. I wouldn't say at the moment it's driving a lot of transactions, but maybe people are sort of coming back in to vote at various times as well. So it'll be, as I say, this is looking at daily active unique wallet. So it's like one unique wallet doing one transaction at least. So we're not measuring the transactions. So maybe adding something like a DAO is going to add like a lot of transactions as well, but that's not going to show necessarily in this activity here for the unique wallets. But we'll keep an eye on what's going on, and then we'll have a view of what's going on over the whole year, which is pretty. I mean, in some ways you see this sort of depressing, I suppose, in terms of activity going down, whereas last year we saw a lot of activity going up. This is just the numbers. The numbers don't tell lies, I don't think, but they don't always tell the entire truth. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you again.